Tonight on KPBS Evening Edition, new questions about a report on last year's big blackout. Why was a major power plant left offline?
Did the National Park Service throw a wrench in San Diego's Plaza de Panama project? We'll hear from both sides. KPBS Evening Edition starts now.
Hello, thanks for joining us. I'm Joanne Ferrian.
I'm Dwayne Brown.
Federal regulators said earlier this month that San Diego's costly blackout last September could have been prevented or diminished if more power had been generated locally. But KPBS investigative reporter Amitha Sharma tells us they don't explain why there wasn't more power online locally. She joins us from the news center. Amitha, the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission released the report earlier this month, and it blamed the blackout on poor planning, awareness, and automatic shutoff triggers that took effect too quickly. What else did the commission say?
Well, Joanne, the commission said having more local generation online would have helped mitigate or prevent the blackout. It turns out that at the time of the blackout, the Encina Power Station in Carlsbad, the largest plant in the region, was providing little or no power to the grid, even though the region was in the middle of the third straight day of a hot spell. If Encina had been online, it would have been able to provide enough electricity to 1 million homes. And remember, 1.4 million customers lost power in the blackout.
So what do federal regulators say about why there wasn't more local generation online?
Well, that's just it. They don't explain why there wasn't more local power online in their report, even though they're the ones who bring it up. I also posed that question to the California Independent System Operator. They're the ones that are in charge of making sure there's enough power in the grid, and they said it isn't cost effective to run every local power plant every single day of the year, but they did not answer the question of why it wasn't on during the hot spell. And remember, that blackout cost SDG&E customers up to $118 million.
Investigative reporter Amitha Sharma.
An environmental group is looking into a strange case involving rocks from San Onofre State Beach. A woman's pants caught fire after touching them. She suffered third-degree burns. Field tests showed the rocks were covered with phosphorus, a flammable chemical. The Marine Corps investigated the incident and says there's no sign of its materials on the North County beach. A Navy ship arrived in San Diego one day after colliding with a refueling tanker in the Pacific. The amphibious assault ship Essex and the tanker Yukon were both damaged. The Navy blames a steering malfunction on the Essex. The ship has a history of mechanical problems, and the Yukon has also been involved in other collisions. The Navy is investigating.
UC San Diego introduced the school's 8th chancellor to campus today. Pradeep Khosla is the former dean of Carnegie Mellon University's School of Engineering. He was welcomed with a standing ovation and even given a surfboard by student representatives. Khosla says UCSD is one of only a few schools he would have considered leaving Carnegie Mellon for, even considering ongoing budget cuts to California's public universities.
I think it's clearly going to be a challenging time. It was a challenging time in the past. It will be a challenging time in the future. Having said that, that is no reason not to take up this challenge and be at the helm of a university that I consider to be one of the best in the country and in the world. So.
School officials say Khosla's history as an effective fundraiser, successful entrepreneur, and accomplished researcher make him an excellent fit for UCSD.
Janitors who clean some of San Diego's most profitable biotech companies are on a hunger strike. They want better wages and health insurance in one of the highest paid industries in San Diego County.
San Diego is home to one of the most concentrated biotech clusters in the world, where you can literally walk across the street to collaborate with another life science company. The average salary for a biotech worker in California starts at about $80,000 a year, but that doesn't include many essential support jobs that are contracted out, such as janitors. They earn between $8.80 and $9.50 an hour without health care benefits.
I have 2 jobs.
Martha Gomez is a single mom living in San Diego with permanent residency status. She's been cleaning the offices of one of the county's largest biotech firms, Illumina, for several years now, earning $8.40 an hour.
The money to earn is just to pay the rent, bills, and that's it.
Gomez says she has little time to spend with her 9- and 14-year-old daughters. That's why she's on a 3-day hunger strike to show solidarity for all janitors, and health care is her top priority. A report from the Center on Policy Initiative shows one of the companies Gomez works for, Illumina, pays its contracted janitors about $18,000 a year for full-time work. While many companies outsource, Arena Pharmaceuticals has janitors on staff, providing full medical benefits, a 401k plan, 4 weeks vacation, short and long-term disability, and more than $10 an hour.
We welcome prosperity and growth in many of the industries, but these industries need to show leadership in San Diego as they have in other parts of the state.
Sandra Diaz with the Service Employees International Union says the janitor's contract expires at the end of May, and the main sticking point is affordable health care benefits. She says San Diego contractors are the only holdouts in the state.
If you've settled in Orange County, if you've settled in Los Angeles, if you've settled in Northern California, you can settle in San Diego in similar terms.
Illumina did not return our requests for an interview. The union plans to reimburse those janitors you saw sleeping on the floor who took 3 days off without pay. The hunger strike officially ends at noon tomorrow. Balboa Park's Plaza de Panama renovation project is inching toward final approval to prepare for the park's centennial in 2015. Opponents are trying to stop the project at every turn. Joanne is at the roundtable to talk about the latest challenge. The project sponsor, by the way, is Erwin Jacobs, a major contributor to KPBS.
The city of San Diego got a stern warning letter this week about its plan to remove cars from Balboa Park. The National Park Service told the city the plan to build a bypass bridge will have a permanent and adverse effect on the park as a National Historic Landmark. Joining me to talk about what that could mean are Welton Jones, a member of the Committee of 100. That organization is against the Plaza de Panama project. David Marshall is also here. He is with the City of San Diego's preservation consultant for the Plaza de Panama project. Thank you both for being here.
Thank you.
So, first of all, Welton, I want to talk about opposition to this project. Is it mainly this bypass bridge that you and the group that you're a member of oppose?
I think it's the bridge that sort of unifies the opposition. And there are several small and relatively unfunded groups that are in opposition to this, and there's a lot of people just off the street out there in opposition to this. There is no, unfortunately, well-funded, well-organized opposition. And the problem is, in fact, the bridge, yes, and the aesthetics of it, and the implications of continuing to bring traffic into the park.
Now, David Marshall, remind the people at home about the intent of this plan and who's backing it financially. I know Welton makes the point of saying the opposition isn't well-financed, but the people in favor of this are.
Well, it started with Mayor Sanders coming to Erwin Jacobs and saying one of his goals was to remove the long wished-for result of getting cars and parking and traffic out of the Plaza de Panama, which is the heart of Balboa Park, the large plaza by the Museum of Art. So the two met. They went up to the top of the California Tower and overlooked the park. And Erwin decided that still allowing, only closing that to parking and still allowing cars to drive through it was really not a good solution, because he saw the success of closing the East El Prado over by the the Space Theater, and how successful that was. That's really the heart of the park as far as activity. And so he saw, why can't we close the rest of El Prado? And he realized that the Cabrillo Bridge is the only western access into the park. So how do you get people across the bridge but not driving through the middle of the park? You provide them a secondary route, and that's where the Centennial Bridge comes in, which basically brings cars around the rear of the Museum of Man and around the rear of where the museums are. And
he's willing to fund this to a large extent as well, Erwin Jacobs.
He's created a committee. He's been funding it so far, including a very expensive environmental impact report that was just completed.
Right. I think he's also committed a large amount of money to this, and I should disclose to our audience that Erwin Jacobs is a major funder of KPBS as well. Mm-hmm. Now, I want to talk a little bit about this letter, and I want to show people at home some of the excerpts from this letter. Now, this comes from the National Park Service, and it basically says, look, this plan, we don't really like it. and let me sort of back that up. It says the NPS finds that the project will have a permanent, major, and adverse effect on the integrity of the Balboa Park National Historic Landmark. It goes on to say the project will physically destroy a part of the NHL property, National Historic Landmark, and the project will introduce visual elements and spatial changes that will diminish the integrity of the property's historic features. Third thing, in addition to the above concerns, we believe some elements of the proposed rehabilitation have the potential to create a false sense of history. How does the city respond to that?
Well, I could respond to all of those. Hopefully I'll have enough time.
But this sounds serious. This sounds like I heard you earlier say on our midday interview that this letter does not put the historic landmark designation in jeopardy. But I think if you're listening at home, you might think it does.
No, it says there are aspects of the project, primarily the bypass, the Centennial Bridge, that they think they prefer wasn't there. The fact is that we have a historic district here made up of dozens of buildings and gardens and other spaces. The only, the term destroy, the only part of any historic feature that we're touching is 65 feet of railing at the very end of the Cabrillo Bridge where the Centennial Road connects. So, that is, I think, a little bit of hyperbole. We take their comments seriously, and we take their criticism seriously. In fact, the historic, both the independent historic consultant and the environmental impact report and the city's staff, historic staff, agree that the bridge is the only part of the project that doesn't fully comply with the historic standards. However, that doesn't mean the project can't go forward, and it doesn't mean it can't be mitigated to some extent or lessened. And we've redesigned the bridge to be as narrow and transparent as possible. It's within a grove of eucalyptus trees, which makes its visibility very minimal. We feel that there's a lot of focus on the bridge, but you have to remember this is a very large project, over 6 or 8 acres.
I want to give Wilton a chance to weigh in here, but first I want to let people at home know what's at stake in terms of there are less than 2,500 national historic landmarks throughout the country. Once you are on this list, you end up in a number of brochures, tourism brochures, and also you have access to funding for various preservation grants. So Wilton, isn't it a good goal? Don't most people agree they don't want cars in Balboa Park? I mean, is it just a matter of how to get them out, or is it the idea that you want to change this in the first place?
Well, obviously the cars have got to go, and they probably will go because the city's getting bigger and the park's not. The idea of building a 700 and some odd place parking garage in the center of the park does seem to commit you to allowing cars to continue to come in. The obvious solution in the long haul, it seems to me, is a good public transportation system within the park, and the automobiles handled elsewhere. We have room to do that. We have the technology to do that. It's a plan that needs to be that's the plan that needs to be pursued, not this idea of tacking bridges on here and digging underground parking there, in my opinion, because those things are going to be obsolete almost immediately when we have to get all the cars out of the park. We're going to have to come back and figure out how to dynamite this bypass bridge and get it out of our way within 40 or 50 days.
We are out of time, so I have to end it there. I thank you both for being here, but I want to send people to our website, kpbs.org. There's a much longer conversation with both of you from Midday Edition earlier today. Thank you both for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The state is about to take over fire protection in part of San Diego County. We'll have a look at the reasons why in a moment. And we'll show you how a blues band is helping kids learn English. This is KPBS Evening Edition.
Tonight on KPBS at 8, visit the Salt Farm of the South Bay, recall the famous East County Auto Track, and visit a coastal cave to see Sonny Jim on Ken Kramer's About San Diego. Then at 8:30, a place that very few have ever seen, the St. George Reef Lighthouse, 8 miles off the northern coast, on California's Gold. And at 9 on Sherlock, a masterpiece mystery, the trail leads to top secret government research on the Hounds of the Baskerville. Tonight on KPBS.
The American people have named PBS
the most trusted source of news
and public affairs
for the 8th year in a row.
Trust.
The American people have spoken. Thank you.
I'm Jeffrey Brown. On the next NewsHour, a Newsmaker interview with Treasury Secretary Timothy Geithner about jobs, the state of the economy, and more. That's Thursday on the PBS NewsHour.
KPBS Evening Edition is made possible by Joan and Irwin Jacobs and by
The State Fire Service is poised to take over duties in parts of southeast San Diego. Earlier this week, Joanne talked with the interim chief of the San Miguel Fire District.
The San Miguel Fire District is in financial trouble, so much so it is entering a cooperative agreement with CAL FIRE. Joining me is interim San Miguel Fire Chief Gary Croucher. Chief Croucher is taking the position of interim chief because Chief Augie Guillo is in the hospital after being injured in a motorcycle accident. And CAL FIRE Chief Tom Porter, thank you both for being here.
Thank you.
First of all, Chief Croucher, tell us how Augie Guillo is doing right now.
I was able to visit with him today. He's got a tough road to recovery ahead of him, but he's gotten through the first couple of days, which is very important. It was a serious accident, but he has gotten through those first couple of humps, and that he's starting his road to recovery, and I was actually able to converse with him today. So it's going to take a while, but he will recover from this.
Well, we want him to know that everybody here at KPBS is thinking about him.
Thank you.
So let's talk about the financial trouble now with the fire district. Give us some background. There's a deficit, isn't there?
There's a deficit. It's currently for this year, we're looking at a $1.2 to $1.4 million deficit within our next budget. And within it, really, what we've been looking at is the property taxes. As the property taxes in the homes have devalued, that's where we get our funding. That's about 98% of our funding. And as the property values have went down, we have not been able to make enough cuts to be able to sustain the services that the district needs and that the customers need.
We just saw up there a graphic that shows you have about a $20 million budget. There's been some talk, in the media at least, about salaries and the costs of your district. Mm-hmm. I know you've had some negotiation reducing those costs, but was that an issue in terms of how much you paid your employees and the benefits that they received?
Yeah, I think if you look around the entire county and across the fire service, while it's been reported that we were the top, and maybe at one point we've also taken, and that was based upon a consolidation that we did back in 1988. What we came across and what the employees moved forward with negotiations. I don't think they're really out of line with any of the other agencies, but we have taken cuts, significant cuts. The employees have given back the 9% of the contribution to PERS, which was negotiated for in place of a raise at one point in time. They've given that back. They've given back some of the cost of medical benefits. Any new costs that arise, they're no longer being paid for 100%. They now pick in 50% of what any of the cost increases are. So there's been some cuts. The employees have taken cuts. We've done some things within the district to trim costs. We've reduced non-essential services cuts by $800,000. We have reduced engine service. One of our engines at Station 15 we actually closed about 2 years ago, and then this year Engine 23, which all of our engines has a staffing of 3, is down to 2. That engine has 2 paid full-time firefighters on, and is augmented with one of our reserve firefighters.
So you're at the end of the line, which now let's bring in CAL FIRE. So you are entering into this partnership. What does that mean?
Well, the state looks at these opportunities when a district comes to us and asks for a proposal. This is a perfect opportunity for the state to work through. We have half of the district is in state responsibility area, which we cover on the wildland side. So to merge our efforts and cover both the wildland and the municipal fire is a perfect arrangement for us.
Let's talk about this area, the fire district, the areas in which this includes.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's the areas Spring Valley, Grossmont, Mount Helix, east. And until you get to the rural fire district area, which is already in a contract with us. So those resources can share in some of their response to those areas. We already do through mutual aid, but it will better coordinate some of that effort.
What happens to the current employees? Do they lose their jobs? Do they become CAL FIRE employees?
All of the affected firefighter employees are in the process of being assessed to move over to CAL FIRE. Of course, this is going to take some time. We have to go through all the proper assessment of skills and certifications, but it's anticipated that every one of those employees will be a CAL FIRE firefighter if this is to make it through the final
And that's the intent of the district and with the board of directors, is that really this is a cooperative agreement. We really combine into one for our purposes. The board of directors stays in place, and they're still able to have local control and local say as far as our staffing, as far as any of the areas of our improved services, those kind of things stays in place with all the employees come across.
We haven't got a lot of time left, but I want to throw this out to you, Chief Crutcher. We know that there have been reports at these public hearings where the citizens feel very strongly about this move, that this is a fire-prone area. People feel very close to their fire district. Yeah. Will anything change? Will they be less protected, more protected by making this change?
Well, I live in the area as well, and I've been with the district for 26 years. The key is the services stay the same. If anything, they improve. We already have auto aid agreements with our surrounding agencies, the city of El Cajon, the city of La Mesa, Lemon Grove, Lakeside, Alpine, and all those automatic aid agreements stay in place. We were able to upstaff our Engine 23 back to full staffing and some of the different things. So I think you'll see a really seamless transition across, but a true benefit, especially long-term viability to the district.
Well, thank you both for being here. We're out of time, but I want to send our audience also to kpbs.org, where we have a much longer conversation with you as well. Thank you both for being here.
Thank you for having us.
An update on Chief Augie Guillot's condition. We're told he remains in the ICU, but is making remarkable progress. He could be released from the hospital sometime next week. Playing games and singing songs may seem like fun breaks from schoolwork for young students, but KPBS education reporter Kylie Calvert tells us about a classroom where songs are part of the schoolwork, and it's getting students excited about learning.
These first graders at Oceanside's Garrison Elementary are developing the same language skills as their peers in any other class. On this Tuesday, they're rotating between stations where they're working on spelling, reading, and writing exercises. What makes their class different is the theme that runs through all of the work.
Things I like
about our blues band. I'm writing a story about the blues band.
And what are you saying about it?
I was liking their shakes.
Check. Say go.
That we like about the blues band.
So what do you like about the blues band?
That we can have fun.
So what are you writing?
About the blues band going to a trip on the moon.
And so how is the blues band going to get there?
On a rocket.
John Schwartz's students may not really be taking a trip to the moon, but they are really in a blues band. Schwartz says the band developed after he started mixing blues songs into his lesson plans along with the usual suspects of elementary school music, like I've Been Working on the Railroad. At first, a few students started dancing along with the songs. Now all of the kids are part of the group, and the blues band has become part of the work they do every day.
For example, we did a project today which was the blues band in space. So they had to do personal narrative, which was one of the first grade standards, and they have to use descriptive language, which was one of the first grade standards, and then they share their work. So there's a lot of standards embedded in what we're doing.
Schwartz says students who came into class speaking no English started making dramatic improvements after the blues band became part of class time.
One of the things with English language learners is they're afraid to make mistakes. And because you bring songs in, and first we do it in a whole group format, they're doing something that's predictable, and they get into it. And then after a while, they notice that for weeks they've been using their vocal cords a lot. And sometimes it's just getting them to speak.
A lot of the success of the lessons comes from the fact that the kids are having fun. But Yaritza Ruiz is one of the students who says she likes the blues band exercises for another reason.
Because you can learn more words and read better.
On this afternoon, Schwartz and his students are practicing for a big performance, playing for future teachers at Cal State San Marcos. Adjunct professor Leslie Maurerman says it's important for her students to see Schwartz's approach in action, especially at a time when standardized testing has been shown to push subjects like art and music out of many classrooms.
So the challenge for these teachers is clearly how to get all the content in, find a way to creatively deliver it, and then make certain that their students achieve. To infuse this with music or arts or performance, what you'll find is that it enhances their learning, it raises achievement.
Maurman says a teaching method like Schwartz's gives students lots of different ways to engage with the material. That means students at different levels with different needs can benefit from all of the lessons. The blues band is unfazed by the auditorium filled with their families and Maurman's future teachers. After a short video about how Schwartz incorporates the music into his reading and math lessons, all 25 students are ready to go. After the performance, it's clear the band was a hit. Teaching student Michael Rail says he doesn't play the guitar, but thinks the blues band illustrates a more general idea that he plans to use in his own teaching.
In the classrooms that I've been observing in, students need to be exposed to more vocabulary in a non-traditional way, whereas you give them a list of words, but more along the lines of having them be able to connect it into their daily lives and also make it fun and interactive for them.
Schwartz's students are definitely having fun and learning lessons they'll use for years to come.
Here we go, end it. Oh, sweet mama, your daddy's got them.
KPBS education reporter Kyla Calvert. You can see more of the musical students at Garrison Elementary on our website, kpbs.org/evening edition.
Coming up, Neil Ferguson asks how Western civilization managed to rule the world throughout the whole of modern history.
500 years ago, Western Europe embarked on 5 centuries of uninterrupted expansion.
But could we be witnessing the end of Western domination?
Today, the world seems inexorably to be tilting to the east.
Civilization.
New series premieres Tuesday at 8 on KPBS.
An American tradition, in honor of our nation's heroes, a tribute to those who have served and sacrificed. It's the National Memorial Day Concert with General Colin Powell, Trace Atkins, Daughtry, Natalie Cole, Ellen Burstyn, Dennis Franz, the National Symphony Orchestra, my co-host Gary Sinise, and me, Joe Mantegna. Join us for a night to remember, the National Memorial Day Concert, Sunday, May 27th, 8 p.m., only on PBS.
Welcome back to the Public Square on KPBS Evening Edition. For the past several months, we have been reporting on water rates, and tonight we have an update. Another proposal to raise water rates by nearly 10%. The San Diego County Water Authority is proposing the hike for a few reasons, including the increased cost of water from their supplier, the Metropolitan Water Authority, and rising debt costs. The Water Authority plans to hold a public meeting before its June vote on the increase. We'll be following this story tomorrow, so let me know what you think. And do you have a question you want me to ask? Send me an email, jferrian@kpbs.org, or drop us a line on Twitter or Facebook.
You can find tonight's stories on our website as well, kpbs.org/evening edition. Thank you so much for joining us. You have a great night.